The Geet Ruler Episode Number 92 Explanation. On a barren mountain range, 5 figures stood upright on a towering peak, facing into the wind. Despite the erratic gales present around them, these 5 figures were like boulders, unmoving in the wind. Even their clothes remained still and unaffected by the wind. Among the 5, the leader of the group was leaning on a large boulder. His glance lazily towards the distant mountain range, where rampant spiritual energy fluctuations were sporadically bursting out. Dressed in white robes, this leader figure had a slender build. Appearing exceedingly handsome, a warm smile hung from the corner of his mouth, giving him a friendly and genial impression as his black hair gently blew in the wind. Although the other 4 behind him were not average people too, next to him, they definitely dimmed in comparison. His appearance and demeanor really stood out from the crowd. He was Saint Spiritual Academy's Ji Xian. Behind Ji Xian, a golden-haired youth chuckled as he stared at the distant mountain range. "Captain, that fight seems to be drawing to a close. The 12 remaining teams are of decent strength, and I count at least 12 who have crossed their human body disaster." Hearing this, Ji Xian nodded with a laugh. 12 teams, yet another big meal, eh? I wonder if this will actually be too much for us. With Captain around, even experts who have passed their spiritual energy disaster would avoid us. Any team that doesn't are asking to be crushed, replied another teammate, whose body was thick and sturdy, with a straightforward laugh. Many scars ran across his face, giving him a vicious and malevolent aura. Still waters run deep. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in this great spiritual academy tournament. If you're overly confident, you might suffer a defeat due to negligence. Ji Xian slightly smiled, staring into the distance with an abstruse look in his eyes. Apparently, there are many spiritual academies that have secretly enlisted the help of geniuses and prodigies from large and influential clans for the great spiritual tournament this time. While many of them have yet to reveal themselves, as the tournament progresses, these hidden experts will naturally reveal themselves. Only then will there be genuinely fearsome fights. Even if we disregard all those experts, there's still the teams from the other 4 great spiritual academies. Those teams won't lose out to ours, and we've yet to meet them. Aren't we already being thoroughly suppressed by myriad Phoenix spiritual academies? Wen Qingxian. Upon hearing the name Wen Qingxian, the 4 behind Ji Xian wore sullen expressions on their faces. Right from the start of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, Wen Qingxuan's team had snatched the top position in an overbearing manner. Despite the fact that the current leaderboard might not accurately reflect the final standings, their ability to hold onto the pole position was a testament to their ability. The rumors say that Wen Qingxuan's a heaven-sent beauty. Laughing, one of the youths replied, "She participated in the spiritual road alongside you, right? With your charm and wit, were you unable to conquer this proud phoenix?" Ji Xian nonchalantly shrugged. "She is one of the most frightening ladies from the spiritual road. Furthermore, beauty and dashing looks have no effect on her." The golden-haired youth latched onto Ji Xian's words, questioning, "Wait, there are other girls whom you fear? Who? There's actually someone comparable to Wen Qingxian." Sinking into his thoughts, the smile on Ji Xian's face faded. Staring into the distance, a dark look flashed past his eyes. "Another one, her name is Luo Li. She did not lose out to Wen Qingxian in any way, it's just that her personality differs from Wen Qingxian, and she cared less about contesting for a ranking." He could still clearly remember her. Dressed in a black skirt, carrying a long sword, hair like a silver river, and a pair of limpid eyes, clear as glass. She was so dazzling, so much that one would get intoxicated just by looking at her. If Wen Qingxian was a proud and respectable phoenix who bowed down to no one, Luo Li was a lone black lotus in the bowels of a deep valley, her breathtaking beauty only blossoming before the person she fancied. Her innate ability was in no way inferior to Wen Qingxuan's. If she so desired, she could even be as illuminated as Wen Qingxian in the limelight. However, she simply stood quietly alongside that fellow. That still gaze she leveled at everyone would only show traces of warmth and gentleness when she looked at that fellow. That rare display of softness could spur countless men to move mountains. Slowly clenching his fists, his finger gouged into the boulder beside him like it was just butter. His gaze turned chilly as his eyes drooped. "Luo Li." Sucking in a deep breath of air, Ji Xian closed his eyes. Before he became Mu Chen's sworn enemy, he'd actually met Luo Li once. In that moment, Luo Li was being chased and attacked by ruthless opponents, yet all he did was watch the situation from afar. He knew that helping another on the spiritual road was a foolish act, and not being a benevolent person to begin with, he would not risk his safety to save another for no good reason. Therefore, he simply stood aside and watched. He watched as an arrow shot out from the forest and pierced into her shoulder with a spurt of fresh blood. As she staggered from the impact, she looked up, and discovered Ji Xian watching from afar. As their gazes met, and despite her precarious situation, her still and clear gaze never once wavered, nor did she send a plea for help. She simply turned around and rushed into the forest, disappearing like a shadow, leaving a startled Ji Xian behind. He never saw her again. Upon the next time they met, half a year had passed. She had found a companion, a slender youth with dashing looks and eyes as deep as the night sky. This time, he noticed that she had slightly changed. The girl who would maintain a calm expression in the face of death was now gently smiling when she glanced at the youth beside her. That gentle smile was so breathtakingly beautiful, it caused his heart to tremble and shake. He had to admit that a seed of jealousy was planted in his heart right there and then. If he had previously taken action, he might have been the one standing beside her instead. What he failed to realize was that after saving Luo Li's life, Mu Chen had been hunted down by her for a whole 6 months. In that 6-month-long chase, they had been through hell and back. Day after day, the youth had taught her many valuable lessons, only to receive a barrage of attacks in return, leaving him with no choice but to continuously retreat. And with every successful escape, those calm eyes started showing slivers of emotions from within her, and every so often, the corner of her mouth would arc into a gentle smile. The chase lasted for half a year, before Luo Li saw through Mu Chen's various cunning methods and finally held her sword at his throat. He bitterly laughed, only to receive a sweet smile in response. Ji Xian would never find out about this, and due to subsequent events, would start a feud with Mu Chen, and through the many attempts on each other's lives, become bitter rivals. Many might believe that their rivalry would have started sooner or later. After all, both of them were outstanding, and with Ji Xian's personality, he would not be able to accept another equally talented person occupying the same area as him, and thus their conflict was inevitable. Ji Xian, himself, did not deny this reasoning, but bystanders wouldn't realize that deep within his heart, there was another reason. He wanted to thrash Mu Chen, in order to let the girl who moved his heart see that he was leagues above Mu Chen. However, as the conflicts between them escalated, Ji Xian started to consider Mu Chen as a real threat. With his shocking growth, Ji Xian no longer had a guarantee of preventing Mu Chen from becoming the most dazzling figure in the spiritual road. Hence, he had to eliminate Mu Chen. Resorting to using underhanded methods, he finally succeeded, resulting in Mu Chen being banished from the spiritual road. Yet, on the day Mu Chen started the blood calamity and got banished from the spiritual road, Ji Xian noticed that Luo Li had been watching him from a faraway peak. Those beautiful eyes that he had once lost himself in were now directing a chilly gaze right at him, giving off a strong killing intent. After she turned and left, she disappeared, and their next meeting was the end of the spiritual road. She had given up the opportunity to obtain the greatest reward from the spiritual road, crazily sending attack after attack in his direction. In that bitter fight, both sides had suffered grave injuries. And despite the heavy injuries, her icy stare never once left him. The only reason for me to not kill you where you stand, is that Mu Chen will show you what defeat truly means. In my eyes, you will never reach his level. This was their first actual conversation, yet she had uttered such words, causing the usually stoic Ji Xian to rage within his heart. Bang! With a violent punch, the huge boulder beside him exploded into a dust cloud that covered the skies. In that moment, a nasty expression was present on his handsome face as a frightening spiritual energy swept out, scattering the violent gales around him. Behind him, his teammates stared in shock as Ji Xian momentarily lost control over his emotions. This was the first time they had witnessed this side of Ji Xian. After punching the boulder, Ji Xian took a deep breath, finally managing to compose himself. Clenching his fists, a malevolent aura rose in his eyes. Luo Li, Since you think so highly of him, I'll crush him right before your eyes, and I want him to die a terrible death." Seeing his current expression, his teammates were shocked. Just as they were about to speak, their academy plaque suddenly gave off a bright flash of light. They hurriedly looked over, before their expressions changed and they let out a cry of alarm. "Eh? Xiaohu's team has disappeared from the rankings. There's actually a team from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy on the leaderboards." Upon hearing this, Ji Xian squinted his eyes. With a wave of his palm, his academy plaque appeared, and his gaze fell on the name of the team who had just broken through into the leaderboards. Great Spiritual Academy Tournament, 9th place, Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Captain, Mu Chen. The atmosphere on the mountain peak seemed to have froze up at this moment. Ji Xian shot a deathly glare towards the eye-piercing name present on the academy plaque, the amiable smile on his face being completely wiped off. Extending his finger, an emotionless expression appeared on his face as he rubbed against that name. Although he had yet to say a single word, every single one of the 4 people behind him could sense an astonishing wave of killing intent radiating from the body of the former. Among them, the youth by the name of Mu Feng faintly knew about the grudge and grievances between Ji Xian and Mu Chen. Shrugging his shoulders, he said with a smile, "Looks like your adversary has appeared." Hearing those words, Ji Xian gave an indifferent reply, "You don't know if the current him has enough qualifications to be my adversary." "Xiaohu's group has disappeared from the top 16, said a golden-haired youth as he wrinkled his forehead. "And this group from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy has just so happened to rush in at the same time." Speaking till here, a clear expression of shock and amazement flashed across his eyes as he continued to speak. Could it be that Xiaohu's group had suffered defeat in the hands of this group from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy? That's impossible, right? Xiaohu's group is extremely strong, with he, himself, being someone that had successfully passed his spiritual energy tribulation. Although there are crouching tigers and hidden dragons in this great spiritual academy tournament, there shouldn't be that many people that could defeat them with ease, said the burly bear-like bodied youth with a frown. Shaking his head, Ji Xian said with an indifferent tone, "There's no need to make any more guesses. Xiaohu and his group truly have been defeated by Mu Chen's group. Can't you see that there isn't any indication of the direction of their location anymore? This means that they should have entered some remnant." Looking over, Mu Feng and the rest saw that it was true. Mu Chen and Xiaohu's group didn't have any indication of their direction at all. He. That group of unlucky fellows. They really have lost all faith this time to have actually suffered defeat in the hands of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, said the golden-haired youth as he flung his mouth aside and gave a mocking laugh. Although all of them were from the Saint Spiritual Academy, they weren't considered to be amicable within the academy itself. On the contrary, there were loads of internal strife. Therefore, he was naturally reeling in happiness at Xiaohu's misfortune of bumping into such trouble. Looking at the indifferent-looking Ji Xian, Mu Feng gave a smile as he said, "Do we need to find them now? I believe that they won't hide in the remnant for the entirety of the tournament. As long as they come out, we should be able to find the direction they are at." Rubbing the academy plaque in his hand, Ji Xian callously eyed the name present on it. Shaking his head, he replied, "There's no need. If he truly possesses some ability, we will eventually bump into him. If he doesn't even possess the ability to last till then, he wouldn't have the qualifications for me to keep him in mind." Hearing that, Mu Feng nodded his head. As of now, they really should not waste time worrying about Mu Chen's group. Time's about up. Get ready to move. Remember, don't let a single one off. Ji Xian looked towards the depths of the mountain, where the rampant spiritual energy fluctuations that were radiating from had grown weaker by quite a bit. From the looks of it, a result was gradually forming in the battle taking place there. Therefore, he said that with an indifferent tone, while giving a wave of his hand. Whoosh! As his hand dropped down, the 4 figures behind him had already shot out at lightning speed. Bringing along dense and boundless spiritual energy, they appeared like a storm, sweeping across the mountain range akin to an incomparably rampant hurricane. Looking at their backs, Ji Xian slightly turned his head to look towards the far north, an incisive chill gushing from his eyes. "Mu Chen, you should work hard to move forward. Once you walk before me, I will let you understand exactly how big the disparity is between you and me. This time, I'll definitely let you be consigned to eternal damnation." Abruptly clenching his hands, Ji Xian took a heavy step forward. With a loud bang, he transformed into a ray of light, rushing towards the skies. In the next instant, he had shot ahead of the four figures, showing off his quick and lithe speed. As he shot out, intense vibrations shook from the mountain peak as gigantic fissures rapidly extended from it. In the next instant, they had spread out and covered the entire peak. As rumbling noises rang out, giant stones rolled down, before suddenly, the entire mountain peak collapsed apart, sending dust plumes spreading out across the horizon. As Ji Xian and his group started moving, in a region extremely far away from them, there was what seemed like a gathering point. Within that mountain valley, there were hundreds of thousands of groups that had converged over there, having completed various sorts of exchanges and trades. There was an unspoken rule present here, which was that there could not be any fights in this place. If not, that would result in hostile response from everyone here. Clearly, there was some noise present in this mountain valley. Yet, the gazes of many groups were indistinctly focused towards the higher region of the mountain valley. Present on the cliff, there was an exceedingly dazzling silhouette. This silhouette appeared exceedingly slender, with a golden-colored armor draped across her exquisite and voluptuous figure, vividly and thoroughly accentuating her soul-stirring curves. Underneath her battle shirt was a pair of long and slender legs that sparkled with a jade-like luster, causing the eyes of countless people to feel slightly unable to decide where to place their gazes on. A torrent of black hair fell from her head, landing on her straight shoulders. Crossing her jade-like hands before her, it caused her impressively voluptuous chest to become even more eye-grabbing, with quite a few people quietly swallowing their saliva in response to the sight before them. However, even though the beautiful figure had caused the hearts of countless people to pump and pound, there wasn't anyone that dared to be overly brazen in their gazes, with dread even being present in the eyes of some people. That because the young girl before their eyes was called Wen Qingxian, the captain of the first-ranking team in the point rankings in the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. Although her beautiful figure appeared delicate and graceful, everyone knew how much frightening power was contained under that exquisite and alluring body. However, at this moment, the young girl that had become the focal point completely ignored those gazes shooting over from the mountain valley as signs of deep thought surfaced in her beautiful eyes as she looked towards the academy plaque in her hand. More precisely, she was staring at the group that had just rushed into the top 16. Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy's Mu Chen. When Qingxuan's beautiful eyes slowly narrowed, with this little movement of hers causing her to have an otherworldly charm and allure. That blood calamity of the spiritual road? Filled with interest, Wen Qingxian gave a faint smile. Although she didn't bump into Mu Chen while they were in the spiritual road, she had heard stories of the blood calamity. Naturally, though, the most crucial thing was that this Mu Chen seemed to be together with Luo Li. Since he's the captain of that group, Luo Li should also be in that group, right? Muttered Wen Qingxian as she tapped her snow-white chin, her beautiful eyes sparkling while a shade of excitement surfaced on her beautiful face. Captain, our next target is that group from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Lovable voices rang out from the two young girls present behind Wen Qingxian. These two young girls were dressed in dark greenish robes, with their sweet and soul-stirring appearances unexpectedly looking exactly similar to one another. Clearly, they were a pair of identical twins. Noticing the rarely seen shade of excitement present on Wen Qingxuan's beautiful face, they could not help asking in curiosity. Giving a laugh, Wen Qingxian nodded her head and replied, "Pinna, le. Stare at this group for me, will you? Once the direction for their location appears, we'll immediately head out to find them." Exchanging glances with one another, the two young girls asked in doubt, "Won't this delay our plan?" Spending that many thoughts for one group didn't seem to fit in the plan that Wen Qingxian had made earlier. Panning her head over, Wen Qingxian extended her slender jade-like fingers and raised the exquisite chins of the two young girls before replying with an alluring smile. "There isn't any plan that's more important as compared to her." Hearing that, the young girls by the names of Pinna and Lur obediently nodded their heads. Slightly raising her beautiful face to look at a place in the far distance, Wen Qingxian extended her slender jade-like hand, before giving a clench. In the next moment, a sweet smile appeared on her face, That alluring smile seemingly stole away all of the splendor of the daytime within this mountain valley, with countless people emitting uncontrollable gulping sounds from their throats in response. This noble and arrogant phoenix before their eyes truly had caused people's hearts to jump and pound. Although everyone knew that it would undoubtedly be even harder to surmount the heavens than to conquer this phoenix, this was what men were. The harder it was to obtain in one's hands, the more one's heart would itch. Those countless scorching gazes shooting out from the mountain valley finally caught the attention of Wen Qingxian. A faint shiver shook through her long and slender eyelashes as she swept her beautiful eyes over. Noticing her gaze shooting over, shivers immediately shook through the hearts of some people in the mountain valley as they hastily evaded their gazes away. Regardless of how alluring and soul-stirring this young girl was, they were extremely clear about the frightening strength the latter possessed. This girl's truly flavorful. However, it clearly seemed that not everyone had evaded her gaze, as the gazes from one group at the fringes of the mountain valley still appeared as scorching as ever. This group possessed considerable strength, and although their captain had yet to successfully pass through his spiritual energy disaster, he was of comparable strength to Tang Maya and Zhu Yuan. As for the other 4 members of the group, there were 2 experts of fleshly body disaster. This lineup was in fact not any weaker than any group from the 5 great academies. However, even though their lineup was considerably tyrannical, the few groups in the surroundings still casted pitiful gazes at them, before quietly retreating away. On the top of the mountain peak, Wen Qingxuan's beautiful eyes were now locked onto them. In the next instant, an alluring smile immediately surfaced on her face. Giving a sweet laugh, a charming voice instantly rang out. "Oh really?" The body of the captain froze up, clearly not expecting his words to be heard by Wen Qingxian as he had said them with an extremely soft level of voice. In the next instant, giving a dry laugh, his figure immediately retreated away explosively, with the other 4 members of his group following closely behind. Upon seeing this, a rich smile was still present on Wen Qingxuan's face. In the next instant, striding out, boundless spiritual energy swept out, faintly transforming into what seemed like a pair of gorgeous and gigantic glowing phoenix wings. Swish! With a flap of the phoenix wings, her figure disappeared akin to a spectre. Bang! At the instant when her figure disappeared, frightening spiritual energy suddenly swept out in the far distance as the 5 figures that had shot over there earlier had unexpectedly spurted blood out while being sent flying back. Their faces overwhelmed with shock, they proceeded to stare at the space before them. Whoosh! Like a spectre, Wen Qingxian had appeared wordlessly before that captain. Extending her jade-like hand, she immediately grabbed hold of the latter's neck. Looking at the shock and dread-filled face, an enchanting smile curled up from her seductive lips. In the next instant, she sent a pat towards the latter's chest, sending him smashing straight into the mountain valley below, before fluttering away. "I'll give you all the points he has." As she floated off into the distance, a sweet-sounding voice filled with laughter rang from the distance. On the top of the mountain valley, 4 beautiful figures had also transformed into beams of light, shooting off into the distance as they chased after the soul-stirringly alluring figure. Within the mountain valley, gazes filled with longing and unwillingness shot towards the beautiful figures in the distance. Everyone only returned to their senses after quite a while, before casting gazes of ill intent towards the unlucky captain that had suffered serious injuries from a single pat by Wen Qingxian. Due to the enormous battle that took place here, the interior of the giant hall had turned into a complete pile of mess. Slowly descending from the sky, Mu Chen's face appeared slightly pale. Yet, those black pupils of his were still flooded with chilling intent as he swept his gaze around. Faced against his gaze, even Zhen Qing's expression slightly froze up, while a shadow of dread surfaced within the depths of his eyes. Mu Chen's move earlier on had defeated Xie Hu and caused even his heart to palpitate in fear. He knew that if that move was headed towards him, his ending would not be any better than Xie Hu's in any way. The remaining 4 members of the Saint Spiritual Academy group glared with endless shock and fury at Mu Chen. Taking a look at Xie Hu, who was unconscious due to his serious injuries, their gazes turned frosty as they looked once again at Mu Chen. Although they would very much like to take action at this very moment, all of them found out that they couldn't even move their legs a single inch forward, since thick feelings of fear and dread had already cemented themselves in their hearts. The shock Mu Chen had caused to them due to the previous fight was too great. Who would have imagined that Hu, whose cultivation had reached the realm of having passed his spiritual energy tribulation, would actually suffer such a miserable defeat in the hands of Mu Chen, whose cultivation was only at the realm of heavenly completion stage late phase? While still being trapped within the vines, Tang Maya, Ju Yuan, and the rest of the groups looked shell-shocked at the scene before them. Only after quite a while did they take a breath of cold air and regain their senses. Suppressing the shock and astonishment in their hearts, they looked with incomparable curiosity at Mu Chen. Such an outcome had clearly exceeded all of their expectations. Although they never underestimated Mu Chen since the start, regardless of that, Hu had successfully passed his spiritual energy tribulation. Compared with the latter, there truly was a gigantic disparity. Such a disparity couldn't be easily covered. However, Mu Chen had let them experience a miracle-like scene. Sweeping his gaze across the giant hall, Mu Chen's vision lined up with Luo Li's, with the exquisite and porcelain-like beautiful face revealing a faint smile. Mu Chen didn't let her bitter persistence go to waste. With Hu being crippled and deposed of, the situation before their eyes should be flipped around now. Ha ha! You truly are formidable. A dark laugh rang from Jinqing, slowly resounding within the giant hall. Panning his head around, Mu Chen laid his gaze on Jinqing, before a few wrinkles started to appear on his forehead. That's because he was not able to find a single trace of shock or fluster present on the latter's face. That's why you're able to become the captain of your group. Looks like I've truly underestimated you earlier, said Jinqing with a faint smile. Grasping her long sword, Luo Li stood up, while a chilling glint appeared within her clear, beautiful eyes as she glared at Jinqing. Although the only people capable of taking action were her and Mu Chen, if it really came to a fight, Jinqing and his group might have quite a bit of an advantage. Do you think that you're able to turn the situation around after defeating Hu? Sweeping his gaze towards Mu Chen and Luo Li, Jinqing gave an amused sneer, while a look of ridicule gushed from his eyes. I admit that your divine sword is a mighty deterrence. However, don't treat me as a retard. Did you think that I'd really sit here like a retard and quietly wait for you to deal with Hu before dealing with me? Oh? Otherwise? Hearing Jinqing's words, Mu Chen gave a faint smile. Yet, the spiritual energy within his body had already started to circulate once again. The massive fight he had with Hu had resulted in the consumption of quite a bit of his energy, which had led to him being temporarily unable to use a powerful move like the lightning controlling technique. However, without Hu, the combat prowess of Jinqing's side had clearly been greatly decreased. However, the smile brimming on Jinqing's face appeared somewhat strange and weird. Standing beside Mu Chen, Luo Li tightly grasped her Luotian sword, while a chilling light surfaced within her eyes as she locked her gaze onto Jinqing. With bated breaths, Tang Maya and the rest took in the scene before them. Clearly, they had also felt that something wasn't right with Jinqing's reaction to the change in the situation. Faced against the combination of Mu Chen and Luo Li, this Jinqing had unexpectedly shown not the slightest bit of fear or dread. What's more, he appeared to be exceedingly confident in himself, appearing to possess an absolute assurance in suppressing both Mu Chen and Luo Li. However, regardless of the fear and worry present in their hearts, being trapped by the vines, there was nothing they could do but hope that Mu Chen and Luo Li were truly about to deal with Jinqing. Then, they would be able to completely remove the vines that were restraining them. Whoosh! Upon focusing their gazes, Luo Li's lovable figure had already shot forward in the next instant, while an incomparably fierce sword aura swept out. Slicing apart the air in its path, it slashed straight down towards Jinqing's head. With a pat of his palm on the ground, Jinqing's body explosively shot forward. As a shiver shook through his sleeve, a black ray of light gushed out. Appearing just like a gigantic black withered wooden log, it smashed head-on against the fierce sword aura. Boom! An enormous sound rang out as the black withered wooden log shattered apart, sending splintered pieces of wood flying in all directions. However, black rays of brilliance gushed from within, defending against the sword aura. Fluttering back in retreat, the four members behind Jinqing locked their frosty gazes on Mu Chen and Luo Li. Boundless spiritual energies radiated within the giant hall as they got ready to take action at a moment's notice. You all really are impetuous. With a shake of his sleeve, black rays of light radiated from within. Staring at Mu Chen and Luo Li, a chilling shadow gushed from his eyes as he sneered, "You're definitely wondering why I didn't make a single move when you guys dealt with Xie Hu, right? Now, I'll tell you that it's because I needed time. Now, time's up." The smile at the corner of his mouth turned abruptly malevolent. "Next up, it should be your time to struggle in despair." As his voice rang out, his hands suddenly came together to form a complicated hand seal. Behind him, his 4 group members had also formed similar hand seals. In the next instant, blackish-green spiritual energies swept out of their bodies akin to a flood. Shooting straight into the air within the giant hall, they shot at lightning speeds, before slamming straight against the gigantic greenish wood statue at the corner of the giant hall. Bang! As banging sounds rang out, dazzling rays of brilliance erupted from the gigantic greenish wood statue. In the next instant, complex patterns appeared on the surface of its gigantic surface. At the same time, extremely terrifying fluctuations radiated from it. Seeing this, the eyes of Mu Chen and Luo Li slightly narrowed. Clenching her sword aura howled from it, hiding the skies and covering the earth as it chopped straight down towards Zhenqing and his group. Boom! Seeing this, Zhenqing gave a cold smile in response. Stomping his feet, countless vines explosively shot out. Turning into a shield, it blocked the incoming slash from the sword aura, turning into wood splitters that filled the air as a result. Ha ha! The Divine Wood Guard has already been activated and controlled by me. Next up, regardless of what moves you all have, you all will undoubtedly die today. As the wood splitters were explosively sent across the skies, Zhenqing fervently looked towards the greenish wood statue within the giant hall, which had started to slowly stand up. With a hearty chuckle, he said, "Mu Chen, did you all assume that dealing with Xie Hu would be able to turn the entire situation around just like that? Yet, you all didn't know that I was also waiting for time. Ha ha, it's still my win in the end." As the Divine Wood Guard stood up, its gigantic dozen-meter-tall figure radiated with an immense pressure while glowing runes covered the entirety of its body. At the same time, extremely frightening energy fluctuations radiated from it as it took a giant step forward, causing the entire giant hall to shake and tremble in its wake. Seeing this, the faces of Tang Maya and the rest turned pale. As the gigantic shadow came enveloping over, all of them felt the threat of death. Finally, all of them understood why Zhenqing still remained unmoved like a rock even when faced with the defeat of Xie Hu. It turned out that he didn't have the intention to go into a head-on confrontation with Mu Chen and his group since the very beginning. All along, he had been biding his time, using the spiritual energies sucked from the bodies of Tang Maya and the rest to awaken this frightening Divine Wood Guard. From the looks of it, this Divine Wood Guard had been successfully controlled by them, with seemingly all aspects of the situation having landed in their hands. At this moment, there was simply not the slightest bit of a chance to flip the situation around. Solemn expressions appeared on the faces of Mu Chen and Luo as they stared at the Divine Wood Guard. Both of them were able to sense that this Divine Wood Guard possessed extremely powerful energies within it. Although it wasn't to the level of a sovereign realm expert, it definitely far surpassed that of anyone that was of spiritual energy disaster. Although our strength isn't able to allow for this Divine Wood Guard to show all of its power, what happens next is more than sufficient to show you all what despair feels like. Facing the sky, Zhenqing gave a hearty chuckle, his slightly pale face brimming with satisfaction. With a wave of his sleeve, his hand seal changed, only for a glowing tree leaf rune to surface from the forehead of the Divine Wood Guard. In the next instantly, with its massive stride, it dashed straight towards Mu Chen and Luo Li. As it waved its giant fist, boundless spiritual energy swept out akin to rampant horses, instantly enveloping over the two. Swish! Mu Chen and Luo Li instantly shot backwards in retreat. Clenching his hand, the devouring demonic dragon spear appeared in a flash, sending its ominous aura gushing out. In the next instant, a fierce spear shadow was already being thrust towards the body of the Divine Wood Guard at lightning speed. Yet, faced with such a fierce attack, it was only able to leave a faint scratch on its body. Whoosh! The long sword in Luo Li's hand started to dance, sending waves of sword aura gushing out. Smashing right onto the body of the Divine Wood Guard, where inch-deep slashes started to form. Clearly, the destructive power of her attacks was quite a bit stronger than Mu Chen's. However, when compared to the gigantic body of the Divine Wood Guard, they weren't considered to be anything formidable. Clearly, this Divine Wood Guard possessed an extremely powerful defense. Ha ha. Your resistances are completely useless. As of now, unless there's anyone who has passed their Divine Soul Tribulation, this Divine Wood Guard is absolutely impossible to be destroyed by the likes of you, roared Ching in laughter. As long as he deals with Mu Chen and Luo Li here, he would truly be able to obtain this Divine Wood Guard. At that time, not only would he be able to truly obtain a status in the real Divine Wood Palace, he would also be able to obtain this Divine Wood Guard. With its strength, how many people would be able to obstruct him and his group's path in this great Spiritual Academy tournament? The champion of this great Spiritual Academy tournament would definitely land in the hands of their Wood Spirit Academy. Seeing the formidable might of the Divine Wood Guard, a shadow of helplessness and bitterness flashed through the eyes of Tang Maya, Zhu Yuan, Xu Huang and the rest. From the looks of it, they had truly ended up in a hopeless situation. Possessing such strength, this Divine Wood Guard was more than sufficient to sweep away everyone present here. Even Mu Chen and Luo Li collaborating together might not be able to defeat it. This episode ends here. Thank you for watching.